According to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change at NASA, there is no question that increased levels of greenhouse gases cause the Earth to warm in response to our CO2 emissions. The planet's average surface temperature has risen about 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit, largely by increased carbon dioxide and other man-made emissions into our atmosphere. Most of the warming has occurred within the last 35 years. And the 5 warmest years on record take place since 2010. The Earth moves through change cycles, causing with ice ages and warming up the Earth. On this current course, we are accelerating the Earth's cycles through greenhouse gases and CO2 emissions. We need to act now. Climate change is real, and it can have unforeseen and harsh realities. Throughout this speech, you'll realize that we, meaning you and I, can do little things to change the course on climate change. We'll be talking about recycling, supporting renewable energy, and using your items till their natural life end. Your trash could be even making CO2 emissions, not only damaging the atmosphere, but the oceans as well. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch, or GPGP, is the largest of 5 offshore plastic accumulation zones in the world. It is located halfway between Hawaii and California, and is roughly the size of Texas. It is estimated to be 1.5 to 2.4 million tons of plastic entering the ocean, and more added each year. According to scientists in the Ocean Cleanup Activist Group, 50 billion water bottles are currently added to it every year, and are costing Americans roughly 17 million barrels of crude oil to make those plastic bottles. One American uses roughly 167 bottles a year, but only recycles close to 38. And with that, it can be easily negated by the use of a reusable water bottle. This is just one example that you can reduce a single person's carbon footprint. Along with using everything that you have available, it's good to use every item you own to its natural life end. For example, with all the news around electric cars, that is better for the environment, and people are switching to them or hybrid cars, which is great. But most people are switching without using the previous car to the end of its life. Using a car to the end of its life, meaning it's no longer economical or it is undrivable, is better for the environment than buying a new car right away every 5 years, as the current American status quo. Using your car and bigger electronics until they are no longer viable, and recycle them responsibly. Speaking of responsibility, the United States, one of the lowest rating modern countries in terms of environmental regulations towards CO2 emissions. When I posed the question to you as the audience, you thought about what you thought CO2 would be a red herring in the data towards climate change, meaning that CO2 emissions have gone to the point where some experts believe we are focusing too much on what the CO2 has been causing to the environment and less focused on what we can do to change it. How to change climate change sounds silly. I ask you to pay attention to our government and hold them accountable. Look to the new Green Deal that is currently being passed into Congress, and to be informed on renewable energy sources, and like wind and solar, and even nuclear, the world's largest source of low-carbon production. If expanded, it can, from its 11% to 20%, can reduce the United States' carbon footprint by 25%. Thus, it would at least get us started on a new path to more clean and renewable energy sources. I urge you to start with something small, a renewable grocery bag, perhaps even a renewable water bottle. Take walks for short distances instead of driving. Then get bigger and support challenges and change on a higher level towards our government, and make sure you use your vote towards renewable energy sources. Inform and persuade others. One person doing their part to combat climate change is good, but 300 million Americans leading the way for the rest of the world would be monumental.